Hello guys, Braxcast time once again. This is the 84th episode of the Braxcast, and we have some pretty exciting news. Of course, there was talk of an unannounced project last week, and now we do have that as something that's materialized in the form of the Detention Crew. This is a story by the Saska sisters as the writers, Matteo Lucetti as the interior artist, with Michael Woods as the colorist, and this is going to feature the story of a man named Emmanuel, who was a reformed supervillain known as the Death Defier. And this features a very simplistic Archie type of style. This is, of course, meant to appeal to a younger audience. And while some people are really jiving with it, I think some people are not going to be a bit turned off by this more simplistic art style. But I personally like it. I do think it's a very stark departure from what the Rippaverse has been doing in terms of interior art. This isn't like what we are seeing from Deborah Carita or Joe Bennett or Will Conrad, but I think it's pretty good nonetheless, and I still think all these character designs are pretty on point. So I'm excited to see what this story is going to get up to. And of course, there is the religious stamp with this as well. The Saskas are Catholic, and in the trailer, you can see this man praying the rosary because he's a reformed criminal that has to use his knowledge of superpowers and being a supervillain to teach a ragtag team of teenagers how to use their powers for good. So it's a pretty interesting story. It's not one that's never been done before, but I do think it's a decent one at that. So really interested to see how this one turns out. This first part is 56 pages, probably going to be about 3 parts or so. So we'll see how long it takes in between the releases and how well it does go. But for now, this is at about 750 books sold, a little over 25,000 in sales, which is pretty good for an all ages story. And like I said, I think this art style is going to turn off some of the Rippaverse regulars. But I personally like it. I personally jive with it, but that can't be said for everybody. But other than that, there really isn't too much to talk about. Of course, I'm going to go over the covers as I usually do. This is cover A by Kanan White, of course, legendary A cover artist. And just artist in general for the Rippaverse. Of course, he did the interior art for Saoirse. Hopefully, we're getting that one soon. But this is a fantastic cover. You got all the heroes in costume here. Seems like we've got an X-Sept that can transform. Got one with angel wings. If you can see, like here, got the angel wings there. So it's going to be pretty cool to see just how little control of their powers that they have and how much work he's going to have to do. And that's probably going to be I would say that's certainly going to be the bulk of the story. But here we go. We've got the next cover. That is cover B. This is by Jeans Holland. Of course, you show them all in costume as well. I love just the way this is centered. Might be a little bit like The Breakfast Club. Might be parodying that, although that movie's a bit before my time, so I couldn't tell if it is or isn't. But anyways, I do like the layout of this cover. Of course, love this Detention Crew logo. It's got a very funky look. It reminds you of stuff you would see back in the 90s with how they did logos. Now everything's very clean and minimalistic and straight lines, and it's just not as fun as it used to be. But anyways, we do have the final cover here, and this is the C cover. This is done by Matteo Lucetti, who is, of course, the interior artist. So this is what really looks like the interior art. It has that same style. And like I said, this is something, it's not going to jive with everybody. Yeah, and not everyone is going to look at this art and think it's for them, especially if you are into more mature art, if you're into stuff that's more realistic. And I'd say while the Rippaverse is really stylized, there certainly is much less of an emphasis on like this pure simplicity that Matteo is going for here. But kids, I think, are really going to like this. So this is going to be really good for the younger audience. You know, we're thinking like between 10 and 13 years old is probably going to be like the peak for this. And of course, this character is out of prison. So there are some things that are like maybe a little bit more like mature, not in the sense that like anything bad is happening, but in the sense that like it's just something where being a little bit older will help you wrap your mind around this. This isn't like something for babies. This isn't like Blue's Clues or Captain Underpants or Dogman or whatever. The kids are reading and watching these days. This, I think, is a little bit more towards the preteen audience. I think that's really where they're going for with this, and I think it's a fantastic way to go about it. And like I said, the art style, it personally jives with me, but of course, it's going to be a subjective thing. So, if you don't like this art, if you think it's too simplistic, if you think it's being dumbed down, I would disagree. That's what I did the live stream on this. That's what I heard. I don't think this art is necessarily being dumbed down, because I think Matteo is drawing pretty competently, but he's just choosing to draw in a very certain stylized manner. Like you see, the hands are done well. His body is, proportional here. All the body proportions are done well. It's just choosing to go for this very simplistic style. And of course, it looks like the panel layouts are going to be done well. And of course, with Invisible Art Studios as the letterer, is probably, I would say, it's certainly going to have a good layout in terms of just being able to read the book as well. And like I said, I think all the character designs are on point. And there is a concept art book that is being released alongside this. So I got all the covers. I got the concept art book. So I will be covering all of that on Braxcast. But that's all I have for you guys. Of course, a little bit of a shorter episode, but this is a pretty... it's a cool release, but it's not like big mind-blowing stuff that's going on. And of course, I don't have any Dokkan cards or concept art books. I'm all caught up with that. So that's where I'm leaving it at. It is a 56-pager, so go ahead and check it out on the Rippaverse site. There was a 24-hour deal where they were doing discounts. I believe that's over now, but still decently affordable. Of course, it's like $20 for the cover C, which might be a little bit out of the price range for parents to impulse buy for their kids, but I still think it's something that's worth picking up. But anyways, that's all I have for you guys in this episode. Joker is out.
Thank you for tuning in to the Braxcast. Be sure to like, comment, follow, and subscribe to keep up with the Rippaverse.